Every summer around the beginning of July, many of us are struck by the irony of the celebration of the 4th of July, the Independence Day, with the Jewish fast day of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, the 17th day in the Hebrew month of Tammuz. Every 10 to 20 years, these two commemorative days actually fall on the exact same day. The last time that happened was 2015. But to be honest, that's not my concern. As we all know, the 4th of July is a federal holiday commemorating the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776, declaring independence from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the right to live in freedom in our own land. The fast of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, on the other hand, traditionally marks the beginning of a tragic period of time, the 3 weeks period ending on Tisha B'Av, when both the first and second temples in Jerusalem were destroyed, and we lost not only our independence, but our heartland too. Can we see the irony here? At the very same time that we, as loyal and proud American citizens, full of gratitude for this wonderful country in which we live, are meant to be enjoying the beautiful 4th of July fireworks after eating hot dogs, burgers, and not French fries, but American fries, we are also, as faithful and traditional Jews, supposed to be pondering the flames that engulfed our holy temple 2,000 years ago, when the Romans killed many of our people and expelled us from our true heartland, Israel. Crazy. I wonder what would happen if the President of the United States of America would enter our chapel on a typically weekday morning during Shacharit and listen to some of the traditional blessings being said by our minyoners as part of the Shmona Esrei, such as the blessing of Teka B'Shofar Gadol, in which we ask God to sound the great shofar for our freedom, raise the banner to gather our exiles, and gather us together from the four corners of the earth. How do you think the president would react? Imagine if President Biden were to join a Jewish family for the Passover Seder, and at the end of the long Seder, hear them all sing with great feeling and longing, "Next year in Jerusalem." What would he say to that? With a confused look on his face, President would probably ask Julie or any other congregant or the Passover Seder host, "What's the matter here? Don't you like the US? What's not to like? Are the politicians too dishonest? Is the cost of health care too high? Too many guns? And what's the business about American being an exile? Jews are welcome into our country with open arms and are treated very well. Why the rush to leave and go to the Middle East in these days of old? You don't hear Irish Catholics in their churches praying, 'Lord, bring us back to Belfast.' So why is every Jew itching to get out of the US? All of this may sound like a big joke, but we need to know that not too long ago, there were many Jews who thought that fitting in as much as possible would solve the problem of anti-Semitism, and to whom the idea of publicly proclaiming in the synagogue or even at the Seder table that Israel is our true homeland and that we want to return to Zion speedily in our days was unacceptable. In fact, in the USA in 1841, at the dedication ceremony of Temple Beth Elohim in Charleston, South Carolina, Rabbi Gustav Poznansky stated that, quote, "This country is our Palestine, this city our Jerusalem, this house of God our temple." At the Pittsburgh Conference in November 1885, the rabbis declared, "We consider ourselves no longer a nation, but a religious community, and we therefore expect neither to return to Palestine nor a sacrificial worship under the son of Aaron, nor the restoration of any of the laws concerning a Jewish state." Unquote. Of course, all that changed for the most part after the Holocaust, when we realized that fitting in with the non-Jewish neighbors did not exactly protect us from hatred and persecution. When the State of Israel was established in 1948, it became a major source of Jewish identity for Jews all around the world who now embrace Zionism even as we continue to live in the diaspora. But that is still quite paradoxical for a Jew living in the diaspora these days. While on the one hand we are loyal, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens of the country in which we reside, on the other hand, one of the most fundamental tenets of our faith is the belief that God will bring the Messianic era and will bring us all back to the Promised Land. And for many of us, it's no simple task to reconcile these two seemingly contradictory loyalties. Others are not sure that they would even want to leave the most prosperous and successful exile of North America, with all its comforts and relative safety, to follow some messianic idea of moving to the Middle East. As the following story about the famous Reb Nachum Chernobler illustrates. Reb Nachum was once staying at a roadside inn, and he arose at midnight to recite Tikkun Chatzot, special prayers at midnight, imploring God to bring the Messiah and end the exile. The innkeeper, a very simple Jew, heard Reb Nachum reciting psalms in the middle of the night and went down to him and asked, "What are you saying?" And Reb Nachum explained, "I'm reciting Tikkun Chatzot, that the Master of the world should end our bitter exile and that we should all go to the land of Israel, so exile should be finally over." The innkeeper was impressed. What did he do? He went back upstairs, woke up his wife, and told her, "You know, there is a Jew downstairs who is praying that the exile should end and that we should all go to the land of Israel." His wife turned over and said, "Go to Israel? What is going to be with the farm? What is going to happen with the cows? What is going to be with the horses?" The innkeeper was bothered by his wife's question, so he went back to Reb Nachum and said, "But Reb Nachum, what will be with the farm and the cows and the horses?" And Reb Nachum said to him, "You're worried about the cows and the house and the barn? When the Cossacks come and they pillage and plunder, are you happy? Is that what you want? God will take us to Israel, no more Cossacks." Again, the innkeeper, very impressed, ran back upstairs to relate the Reb Nachum's response to his wife. The wife said, "Go tell Reb Nachum that God should take all the Cossacks to the land of Israel, and we'll stay here with the farm and the cows and the horses." I guess the take-home message for all of us at this time of the year, when we celebrate Independence Day while entering into the saddest 3 weeks of the Jewish calendar, is that as good as we think we might have it today, living in the most hospitable and friendly country the Jewish people have ever known, we must remember that we are still in exile. True, we might not be losing Jewish lives to pogroms, Inquisition, and Holocaust today as we did in Europe for well over 1,000 years. But we are losing many, if not more, lives in other ways, like assimilation, intermarriage, not to mention the general moral decay and breakdown of family values, which makes it very hard for a Jew to live a deep, meaningful, and spiritual fulfilling life in this environment. It is for those very reasons that even today in the luxury of North America, we should consider another concept. And that concept is, we are in a mental exile. Mental exile. What is a mental exile? Not doing enough for a better time when all of our Jewish brothers and sisters will be united as one happy family. Not doing enough for a better time when the world will be filled with the knowledge of God and with tremendous spirituality and meaning. Not doing enough to help the needy, the immigrant, the sick, or even our own family members when they need us. That is a mental exile. Let me share with you another story, this time from one of the greatest Hasidic masters, Nachman of Raslav, as told in Elie Wiesel's book, Soul of Fire. From his window facing the marketplace, Reb Nachman saw one of his followers, a certain Heikel, hurrying down the street. He called him and invited him up. Heikel, Reb Nachman said, have you seen the sky this morning? No, Rebbe. And the street, Heikel, have you seen the street this morning? Yes, Rebbe. And now, do you see it still? Yes, Rebbe, I see it. Tell me what you see. And Heikel said, people, horses, carts, gesticulating merchants, excited peasants, men and women coming and going. That is what I see. Heikel, Heikel, said Reb Nachman, shaking his head. In 50 years, in 2 times 50 years, there will be on this very spot a street like this one and another market similar to this one. Other carriages will bring other merchants to buy and sell other horses, but I shall no longer be here, and neither shall you. So I ask you, Heikel, what's the good of running if you do not even have time to look at the sky? And there is an update version of this story, yet to be written, which might go something like that. Reb Nachman called one of his followers over for a chat and asked, Yonah, have you seen the sky today? No, Rabbi, responded Yonah. And have you looked down at your hand today? Yes, Rabbi. And what did you see? And Yonah replied, I see my cell phone. And what do you see on your cell phone, Yonah? I see emails, texts, and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I see cute cat and dogs videos and all kind of other videos. Yonah, Yonah, replied Reb Nachman, in 50 years, in 2 times 50 years, there will be on a new generation cell phones which, much like this one, new emails and new texts, new videos, and surely new social media posts. But I will no longer be here, and you will not either. So I ask you, Yonah, what's the good of focusing so much on your time and attention on your cell phone if it keeps you from looking at the sky? So, dear Bnei Torah congregation, how do we see the sky and not our smartphones? How do we pay attention to the people around us and not the people on a video clip? How do we enjoy our comfort and at the same time try to live our mental exile? The answer is celebrating the 4th of July Jewishly, by asking ourselves if we are taking full advantage of our religious freedoms. Jewishly, by asking ourselves if we are active enough in our congregation, a beacon of human respect and solidarity, a place where we can feel God's presence. 4th of July Jewishly, by asking ourselves if we take advantage of the rich supply of kosher food available in our community. Jewishly, by asking if we are pushing enough to send our children or grandchildren to Jewish day schools or to youth groups or to Ramat Arom. Jewishly, by thinking if we pay enough attention last Passover as we read the Haggadah to the idea that we are not free unless all people are free. Jewishly, by thinking how can we urge our members of Congress to support fellow democracies around the world. Jewishly, by asking ourselves if we gave tzedakah this week. While no individual can eliminate poverty, we can, as individuals, make some difference in the lives of the hungry and the homeless. Jewishly, by asking those types of questions around the barbecue this coming Tuesday, is a Jewish way of celebrating the 4th of July. Infusing our festivities with essential Jewish values like freedom, justice, unity, and gratitude is the Jewish way. In 1975, the United States Postal Service issued a stamp honoring a man named Haim Solomon for his contribution to the cause of the American Revolution. This stamp was uniquely printed on the front and the back. On the glue side of the stamp, the following words were printed: financial hero, businessman and broker Haim Solomon was responsible for raising most of the money needed to finance the American Revolution and later to save the new nation from collapse, unquote. Without this Jewish contribution to the cause, there would be no America today. Hold on, Rabbi. What about Shva Asar B'Tammuz this coming Thursday, when we'll remember the siege of Jerusalem, which led to the destruction of the temple? Haim Solomon believed that America would be a safe haven for the Jews. But as the son of a rabbi, he also believed that one day in the future, Jerusalem would rise from the dust and Jews would return to the ancient heartland. Haim Solomon was determined to do all he could to finance the revolution so America could survive until that future time when his people would once again fill the streets of Jerusalem. Are we also determined? Happy 4th of July. Tzom Kal and Mashmauti, easy and meaningful fast for this coming Thursday, and Shabbat Shalom.